Check out shares of Illumina jumping more than 2.5% in the after-hour session. Let's get to Meg Terrell with the first on CNBC interview with Illumina CEO. Meg.
Mel, thanks so much. And Francis D'Souza joins us now. Francis, it seems like that stock jump really came after your presentation at the JP Morgan conference, where you came out with guidance ahead of expectations. Tell us what's driving the outperformance beyond the street's expectations in the last quarter and the upcoming year.
Yeah, hi, Meg. You're right. I think the street was pleasantly surprised by the strength in both the 2021 numbers, where we announced revenue that grew 39% over the previous year, and then the strength in the guidance for this year, where we guided for 14 to 16% growth, which was significantly ahead, I think, of where expectations were. I think a few things are playing out. And if you look at last year, every quarter last year, we ended up beating expectations, raising expectations, and then beating them again. So what we're seeing playing out is something we saw play out starting last year, where firstly, we're seeing an expansion of reimbursement for genomic testing. So last year, we crossed a milestone where there are over 1 billion people now around the world that have reimbursement for some kind of genomic testing. And that's continuing to grow. And we said that that expects to get to 2 billion in a few years. So a lot more people have access to genomic testing, whether it's to select the right therapy for cancer or for genetic disease testing for the 5% of the population that has genetic diseases or NIPT. And that's probably one of the biggest drivers of the growth in our core business, just more access to the tests through expanded reimbursement.
Well, of course, another area where your technology is used and that I like to ask you a lot about is the sequencing of different variants and the tracking, the surveillance of what's going on with this pandemic. You noted in your presentation, today marks the 2-year anniversary that the first sequence of the coronavirus was posted online from China, from folks who were using Illumina's systems and technology. How would you grade the kind of genomic sequencing and surveillance we've ramped up since then? Is it where it needs to be, or does it have further to go?
Yeah, well, Meg, it's hard to believe, you're right, that it's been 2 years since the researchers in China identified SARS-CoV-2 and sequenced it using Illumina machines. And, we've come a long way in terms of, before that, almost nobody had sequencing surveillance infrastructure in any country around the world. And if you look today, over 117 countries around the world are now using Illumina to do genomic surveillance for COVID. So we're making a lot of progress, and some countries are well ahead of others. I think the UK started in the spring of 2021 and laid out the first genomic surveillance infrastructure in the world, and other countries are catching up, but they're catching up quickly. And if you look even in Africa, for example, you now have sequences from 51 out of the 54 countries in Africa. And so we're laying a global infrastructure for pathogen detection. That's going to be essential in terms of helping us get out of this pandemic. But equally importantly, it's laying an infrastructure for global pathogen surveillance that'll help us identify future outbreaks more quickly. And that could be the next coronavirus, it could be emerging antimicrobial resistance, or it could be a bioterrorist attack. And although we won't be able to prevent future outbreaks, we should commit to making this the last pandemic. And genomic sequencing is an essential part of that.
Well, amen to that. I also want to ask you just about the sort of future of Illumina in terms of you provide a lot of tools for doing all of this work, but you also provide products like Grail's Gallery early blood cancer detection, not blood cancer, but blood tests to detect early cancer. Should we expect more from Illumina along that front in the future, actually developing products to offer?
Yeah, I think one of the things that probably investors would like from the announcements we made is that, as you point out, the opportunity set for Illumina continues to grow, because genomics is emerging as a fundamental tool for so many areas of healthcare. We're used today in cancer to match cancer patients to the right treatments, in genetic disease diagnosis. We're used in non-invasive prenatal testing. We're used to fight infectious disease like this pandemic. But the number of areas continue to expand where genomics can add value. We're doing research in cardiovascular disease and how genomics can play an important role there. We're also expanding into the proteins, the proteomics market, through our announcements with SomaLogic today. So the number of markets that we're addressing continues to expand. And as you pointed out, one of the more exciting ones is the market we're addressing with Grail. So last June, Grail launched Gallery, which is the world's first multi-cancer early detection blood test. So it's a blood test, and it's on the market now, that you can do that'll tell you, that can help detect one of 50 different types of cancer. Now, 45 of those cancers, like pancreatic cancer, for example, some really deadly cancers, have no other screen. And GRAIL has a less than 1% false positive rate. And so we announced today that, GRAIL is off to a really strong start, that they are signing up employers. They've signed up 11 employers, including U-Haul. I know we at Illumina have rolled the test out internally to our employees. They signed up a number of healthcare providers. So last year, there were 1,500 prescribing providers of the GRAIL test, to people to use it as a screen. In addition, they've signed up some healthcare systems. So they announced the Night Cancer Center today. That's part of the OSHU up in Oregon. And the Night Cancer Center joins other partners like the Mayo Clinic and the Cleveland Clinic that are embracing the GRAIL test. And so real strong traction of that test in the market. Now, we know catching cancer early can make a big difference in survival rates. And so there's a lot of excitement about how a test like GRAIL could help save lives going forward. And the fact that it's got good early traction, exceeding expectations that investors had, I think was very well received.
All right, Francis D'Souza, thanks so much, as always, for joining us. We look forward to hearing about more of these updates going forward. Thanks again.
Thank you, Meg.
Mel, back to you.
All right, Meg, thanks. Meg Terrell with the CEO of Illumina. This is interesting. A lot of analysts on the street were thinking that Illumina would make some big news here at the JPM Health Care Conference. Guy, they're sort of saying, you know what, they've been steering towards conferences in terms of new products, in terms of financial guidance, and here we have it. At the same time, a lot of analysts on the street have neutral or underweight ratings on this one.
That's exactly right. You hit the nail on the head. Underweight, neutral. Still, I think the average price target, Mel, I think is about $435 or so. Listen, Illumina is an amazing company, Illumina. The problem is valuation is expensive. I think it's trading close to 90 times next year's numbers. The question is it 32% sell-off from the high of 555 this summer enough? I do think you're going to see a relief rally here. I don't think you're going to get to 435. But I do think you can get about 400 or so. If that's enough for you, I think you can own the stock here.